Jai Shri Radhe, so Vaishnav ko Sadar Supreme, Sadhanya, Jai Shri Krishna. Day 153 and Varta 136, the story of Meha, a fisherman who lived in the village of Gopalpur near Raval Bhav Prakash. This is a devotee of Tamasi disposition. In the eternal Leela, his name is Manjira, who manifests from Sumandira and is thus a form of her divine loving sentiment. Sumandira. There is a village named Gopalpur near to Raval. He was born there into a fisherman family. He was married at the age of 20. His parents died soon after. He began to work as a boatman but lived by catching and killing fish in the Sri Yamanaji River. Part 1. Sri Gosaiji was returning from Gujarat to Govardhan. He stayed there for 3 days to serve Srinathji. On the 4th day, having completed Srinathji's Seva up to the Rajbhog Aarti, Sri Gosaiji thought about returning to Gokul. He mounted his horse and took 4 or 5 Vaishnavas with him, crossing Sri Yamanaji from the Ghat in Mai. It was evening when Sri Gosaiji arrived in Raval accompanied by those Vaishnavas. He did not consider it an auspicious time to go to Gokul. He decided that they should spend the night in the neighbouring village of Raval and then set up camp there with the intention of leaving for Gokul the next morning. Then all the Vaishnavas and temple servants with their carts stopped and set up camp right there in Gopalpur. Sri Gosaiji entered the camp and then, taking off his tunic, went to sit on the banks of the Sri Yamanaji River in order to perform his evening prayers. 10 or so Vaishnavas went with him to sit on that ghat. There Sri Gosaiji saw that a boatman was casting his net to catch fish. A Vaishnava approached him and told him that he should not catch fish there. Sri Gosaiji is here, therefore please get up and leave. It was Meha, and he replied, I have not eaten anything since the morning, so how can I withdraw the net? The Vaishnava gave Meha Dimar 1 rupee and told him to pull in the net immediately. Meha obliged. The Vaishnava told him, please sit at a short distance from the camp. I will bring you something to eat. Please go from here now. Meha Dimar got up, took his net and went home. When Sri Gosaiji had finished his evening prayers, he returned to the camp with the Vaishnavas. He cooked and made the offerings. Then he partook of Mahaprasad and fed all the Vaishnavas too. The first Vaishnava then asked Sri Gosaiji, Oh Maharaj, please may we lay 1 more plate? In this village there is a low-caste man and I need to give him some Mahaprasad, otherwise he will remain hungry. Sri Gosaiji said, I know. I set up camp here today for his sake alone. Hearing this, the Vaishnava kept quiet. Sri Gosaiji called one Vrajvasi and told him, in this village lives one Meha Dimar. Please invite him here and let him come to stand outside the camp. The Vrajvasi left the camp and called out into the village. Meha, on the say-so of the first Vaishnava, was already sitting there for the sake of receiving prasad. He was sitting a little way away from the camp. Meha saw the Vrajvasi, came up to him and asked, Why are you calling out to me? The Vrajvasi replied that Sri Gosaiji was calling him over. Meha accompanied the Vrajvasi, who asked him to stand there whilst he told Sri Gosaiji that Meha had arrived. Sri Gosaiji carried a plate of Mahaprasad and gave it to Meha with his own hands. He addressed Meha, please eat this prasad together with your wife. Meha gave half of the prasad to his wife and ate his own half. Simply by partaking of the Mahaprasad, both Meha and his wife's minds and hearts were perfectly purified. The wife spoke up, From where did you bring this Mahaprasad today? Meha told her, You know Sri Gosaiji who lives in Mathura and Gokul? Well, he is here today. One of his Vaishnavas gave me 1 rupee today, and Sri Gosaiji gave me this plate of prasad with his own hands. They say he is the Lord himself. The wife said, Let's go and surrender him to him. Meher said, But we are low-caste people. How will he be able to accept us? The wife insisted, Come on, let's go. In the same way that he graced us with prasad, he will grace us by accepting us into his shelter. Meha and his wife sat for the whole night outside the camp. A Vrajvasi asked them, Who are you? Why are you sitting here near the camp in the middle of the night? Meha replied, Sri Gosaiji gave us some Mahaprasad. That is why we are sitting here. The Vrajvasi said, Get up from here. You cannot stay here. What is there for you to do here? Please say. Meha piped up, Where else is there for us to go? We wish to take shelter in Sri Gosaiji. Now that we have nowhere else to go, my request is therefore that you go and ask Sri Gosaiji before turfing us out. The Vrajvasi told Sri Gosaiji, O Maharaj, Meha the fisherman and his wife are sitting outside. And they say that they want to take shelter in you. I told them to leave a number of times, but they have refused to go. Please. I told them to leave a number of times, but they have refused to go. Meha told me that they have nowhere else to go. In this way, the two of them are sitting just outside the camp. Sri Gosaiji told the Brajwasi, "Go and tell Meha that they should go and take rest today, and that tomorrow I shall accept them as my disciples. They should not worry." The Brajwasi stepped outside the camp and told Meha, "Please sleep today. Sri Gosaiji will accept you as his disciples tomorrow morning. That is his command." Meha spoke up, Where can we go at this hour? We will just stay seated here. We will keep a lookout over Sri Gosaiji's camp. But if we get sleepy, we will just sleep just right here. Do not worry about us. The Brajwasi went about his business. Sri Gosaiji took rest. Meha and his wife sat awake the whole night. The next morning early, Sri Gosaiji went to the Yamanaji River. When Meha had performed his ablutions, he came to Sri Gosaiji together with his wife and implored him to accept them as his disciples. Sri Gosaiji said, "But Meha, you live killing creatures. How can I possibly accept you?" Meha replied, "O Maharaj, from today onwards, I shall never again kill a single living creature." Sri Gosaiji asked him how he intended to earn a living, and Meha said, "O Maharaj, I shall farm to survive." Sri Gosaiji asked him whether his wife was favourable to all this, and Meha told him that his wife was even more keen than he to live righteously, and that it had been she who pressed him to surrender to Sri Gosaiji. Sri Gosaiji was very pleased to hear all this. He told them both to bathe and come back, and when they had, Sri Gosaiji initiated them both with the Lord's name. Meha gave them 1 rupee that the Vaishnava had given to him to Sri Gosaiji, and said, "O Maharaji, this rupee was given to me by one of your Vaishnavas, therefore it is yours." The two of them also donated 4 paisa each to him. Afterwards, Meha implored Sri Gosaiji, "O Maharaj, please grant us some seva." Sri Gosaiji asked him whether he would prefer to serve a prasadi garment or an actual swarupa of the Lord. Meha replied that he would like to serve a swarupa of the Lord, that he would like to serve the Lord as a child. Sri Gosaiji told him to dig the ground right there with his hand, and Meha dug into the sands on the banks of the Sri Yamanaji River where they were, and for sure out came a very beautiful small golden swarupa. Sri Gosaiji brought the swarupa back to his camp, put him into 1 travelling box, made and offered some preparations to him, and gave him to Meha. He then explained all the ways of seva to him and told him to be very careful in his seva. Meha and his wife both bowed down to Sri Gosaiji, and Meha composed a song. Rag Bhairav. Sri Vithalnaji is very kind. He has taken me, a great sinner, into his shelter, made me fearless, and given me certainty. He speaks of the essence of the Vedas and Puranas, and placed the Supreme Lord into the palm of my hand. The poet Meha now sings, Sri Govardhanaji has thus reappeared and established the path of grace-filled devotion. Sri Gosaiji was delighted to hear this poem, for it told him that Meha had realized divine form. Sri Gosaiji then returned to Gokul. Meha stayed in Gopalpur, where he served the Lord very lovingly. If he ever needed to know anything about the Seva or how to celebrate the festivals, then he went to Gokul and asked Sri Gosaiji. Bhav Prakash. The moral of this story is that one should serve the Lord according to the teachings of the Guru and not just by one's imagination. Otherwise one might displease the Lord. Sri Acharyaji has written in his Navaratna 9 Jewels treatise, Hari Seva Guru Ragya. So one should always serve the Lord according to the Guru's instructions. And sometimes if there is an interruption, one should realize that this is the wish of the Lord. One should always follow the Guru's instructions as to make seva. Hari Seva Guru Ragya Vadanam Va Harichaya. We will pause the story of Meha today at the end, and tomorrow we will continue with part 1. So aaj ke Anand ki jai ho. Sab Vaishnavan ko Jai Shri Radhe, Jai Shri Krishna.